All right, if we'll go to that first slide. Somebody push your neighbor. Just if you got a neighbor next to you, just give them a little push. Just a little push. Some of you may deserve it more than the other. Yeah. How many have had moments in your life where the push was needed? Right? That should be like a full crowd, like all raising hands where a push was needed. Directions. Okay, so most of us men like to say that we know exactly where we're going, and usually we do. 99.9% of the time we do. Until the push comes. The wrong turn, too many, ended up costing an extra 20 minutes. Or listening to your wife and asking for directions would have just saved the aggravation of getting it wrong, right? Usually we're told, if you'll just stop and just ask somebody. No. Procrastination meets its deadline. How many procrastinators in the room? How many knows that there's always a deadline? There's always a deadline. With whatever's going on in your life, I hope you understand there's always a deadline. We have a deadline on our personal life itself. And that deadline, we will meet our eternity, right? So, procrastination meets its deadline. A research paper. Listen, I was one of those people that would wait till the very last minute to finish that research paper. Shirley, I hope you're not watching this. She was my teacher in college, and I would wait till the last night to really finish it up. And I still remember like certain music videos that played during that time because I have to have something going on in the background in order for me to write, which is weird for some, but I do. Anyway, so I still remember those moments. What about a bill? Procrastinating a bill. So you just keep pushing it off even though it's there and it will not go away. A bill. What about a tag renewal? How many forgets to renew their tag? Listen, and now they're starting like, if you for some reason pay for it online, they don't give you an option now. Next time, they will send you an email to remind you they no longer will do it by mail. So like, I'm freaking out just a little bit next year. Just, Lord, please help me to check my email just in enough time. You know, we know when we bought the vehicle, but somehow we seem to forget to renew our tags, and it's always a lovely extra cost if you have done that. What about laundry? Letting that laundry build up. Just letting it build up. Mowing your grass. I have some neighbors who procrastinate on mowing that grass. Job productivity. What about job productivity? So you have to meet a certain form of productivity in order to get either commission, those kinds of things. And so sometimes we live by the stress of procrastinating that. What about taking a shower? Anybody? Anywhere? I hope not. Hope not. Some of your children procrastinate. I went to kids camp with a few of them. Yep. So there's a mandate. How many loves that word? Mandate of showers morning and night when I am the coach. I promise you. All right. Listen, there is always a deadline. Period. There's always a deadline. What about speaking up for yourself? Listen, a call to a professor because maybe you need an extended time frame for your homework. Addison Williams. Need for respect. What about that? How many is it hard to ask for respect when you're not getting it, right? Whether it's through a friend, maybe a family member, and right? One thing that my parents always did was pushed me to stand up for myself. And we're not talking about creating an argument or throwing a fist, but just standing up for who you are. And sometimes that can come with a cost, but speaking up for yourself can be important. I don't know, how about this? Defending your pastor. How well did you do it during COVID season? Just curious. Church family, defending your church family, or Christian values, or the naivety of a corrupt political agenda, right? So let's discuss the push. Listen, we could most likely come up with a few instances just this week where we've needed an extra push, right? I can think of a couple of things this week where Katrina maybe had to push me on something or just remind me, Aaron, don't forget this, or go pick up the dry cleaning, those kinds of things. We need these little nudges here and there. Or maybe we've had something even more extensive this week happen, right? Something to motivate whatever task was at hand. For those who procrastinate or avoid productive confrontation, disregard deadlines, float through their daily lives, I don't understand it, but I've had friends, and sometimes I even envy it, like people that can just wonder and like it all just somehow works out. I don't see how that happens, but it does, and I can get a little envious of that because I'm like always like making sure we're on time with finances, all these different things, but it just boggles my mind that some people can just float through a day and somehow the bill is paid or it's not. The push can be overwhelming, right? So we're going to talk about the children of Ephraim, and this is coming out of Psalm 78. And I believe that they are prime examples when we're talking about the push. Psalm 78, 9 through 11, it says, the Ephraimites, armed to the teeth, ran off when the battle began. They were cowards to God's covenant, refused to walk by his word. They forgot what he had done, they had forgot what he had done, marvels he'd done right before their eyes. That's what he had provided them, was marvels. Now, a reflection moment. What has he done for you? Has he performed the miraculous? Any financial blessings out of nowhere? Has he fought for your freedom? Has he redeemed you? And has he loved you unconditionally? Right? He has armed us, I like how the message says this, with teeth. Yet, how are you using this kind of armor? So let's look at some context about the Ephraim tribe. They were one of the larger tribes of Israel, and sometimes God even called them Israel. They were Jacob's people. The intention was for their tribe to be the chosen to establish his sanctuary. The Lord performed many miracles for them through plagues, demonstrations of his power. Pharaoh was forced to let God's people go free. He divided the sea, wiping out Pharaoh's army. In the day, he led them with a cloud, fire by night, split the rocks in the wilderness to give them a drink. And yet, they still mocked him. In Psalm 78, 17 through 20, it says, all they did was sin even more, rebel in the desert against the high God. They tried to get their own way through God, clamored for favors, for special attention. They whined like spoiled children. Why can't God give us a decent meal in this desert? Sure, he struck the rock and the water flowed, creeks cascaded from the rock, but how about some fresh baked bread? How about a nice cut of meat? In what ways have you mocked his presence over your life? He had done all of these things for them, yet it wasn't enough. They still clamored for favors, for special attention, and they whined like spoiled children. Well, why can't God give us a decent meal in the desert? Well, he's already given you water. He's already parted the Red Sea. But it wasn't enough. Can you imagine the parting of the Red Sea and seeing that go down? But that wasn't good enough. But this is it. The unfortunate thing is we've had forms of the part of the Red Sea, right? I've watched my brother be healed. I've watched him come alive. My mom had the widowmaker heart attack. She shouldn't have survived it. I've had the partings of the Red Sea. Yet, there's been moments where I've clamored for favors, for special attention, and whined like spoiled children. So in what ways have you mocked his presence over your life? Why do I always seem to be the one hit with all the hard battles? Why have you left me alone in this, God? Do you really love me? Because if you did, I wouldn't be dealing with what I am right now. I'm so sick. All right. I'm so sick of staying on the path. It looks to me like it really isn't going anywhere. It's not going good. We bargained for a favor. You know, they always seem to be blessed. When is my time coming, God? Yet, just yesterday, he delivered a random check in the mail for you to sustain you through a week of minimal finances. Or the doctor said, I'm no longer in need of that medicine. Something has changed. The doctor's puzzled. Or a random text came and you were encouraged to keep pushing by a friend. They just felt, quote unquote, felt like they needed to let you know. No, God heard. But we seem to forget these things. We seem to be focused on what isn't happening to me right now, the big situation that's not going on, right? John Bevere said this, and this is coming from a book that I actually just finished, and it's called Killing Kryptonite. If you have not read it, I challenge you to read this book. But this is what he says in this book. Here's the truth we all must come to grips with. In serving God, we will often encounter adversity, hardship, and tribulation. In John 16:33, he tells us that. Adversity locates the strength of our faith. If we find our faith flagging, if we are falling short on the faith meter, that's the time to cry out to God, to seek his word, and to wait on the Holy Spirit. Adversity locates the strength of our faith. Adversity locates the strength of our faith. God is so mindful of what lies ahead for us. He not only informs us those tribulations will come, his word tells us that, but every time he is present, he's lending a hand, providing peace, making provision. He's there. So I want to talk a little bit tonight about the battle. So here's some things I want us to ponder on. Some turn back before the battle begins. Some turn back as soon as it starts. Some turn back when the first affliction happens. Some turn back when the battle becomes too long. My question is, in your battle, where do you fall in this? Hopefully, we don't fall in any of those categories. But I've got to believe that, unfortunately, myself included, we do fall into some of those. Our world's showing us that we do. Why are we not in divine revival here? Why are we not experiencing the things that's been promised over our church? Because of this. Now, I will tell you, given tonight in the service and how things are going and the prayer meeting that we had Monday night, I'm telling you, we were on the brink of something big. And I'm telling you, do not miss out. Because when we finish this chapter in Psalm 78, there are people that missed out. There are people that missed out. And unfortunately, there are going to be some of you in this room that will miss out because of this. So my challenge is to look at your battle and choose none of the above, right? So I grew up with parents who aren't quitters. And both pushed me past limits I felt I was incapable of. I despised mornings. I still do, but I'm better. I'm a little bit more sanctified in my mornings. But I despised them in my youth and in my college years. I promise you I was close to the spawn of Satan himself when awakened prior to the time I saw fit to wake up. Truly. There was always a special plan for my Saturdays. Dad would wake me up, given he'd probably already been banging his toothbrush on the sink because he wakes up with the glory of the Lord, smiling and singing, and I don't. But he had already had special plans for us boys. The lawn needed to be mowed, windows to be washed, clothes to be cleaned. Or, let's add this one in there. Sister Kathy, CDs thrown out the window. You left a CD in her ride and she didn't like it. It was gone. You don't get that CD back. I may have spent 3 hours on that mix back in the day when there was actual mixes on CDs, but she threw it out. Web search history discovered. Removed from leadership. Memorizing for Royal Rangers. Prayer before we left for school. I can remember we're just barely making it out the door. Boys, hold on, we need to pray. Of course, you do not want to gather together and pray because you're already mad because you're running late. Anyway, but that was always what we did. Zero option to miss church. Sunday AM service will never be enough. So, I want to fill you in on what I refer to as the battle on the river. I think Bryce, can you take me to that battle? Thank you. All right, so our family in 2020, the year of the vid, our family got away together and camped out at a place called Bird Adventure Park. It's a really neat place. It's up near Ozark, Arkansas. And we got away for the weekend just to let our hair down, have some fun. And we were prepared for a few things. We took ATVs, we took kayaks, took the camper, and just excited to have a great weekend. And we did. Let me just preface that. We did have a good weekend, but there were some bumps in the road. Dad, Josh, Addison, Bryce, and I all decided that we would go kayaking on the river. Now, Bryce and I even tested the river the night before, and it was swift, but we felt it was very manageable. And we did, I think it was like a 2 mile or 3 mile. It went really quick, no big deal. And so we were excited for the next morning to go. Now, Katrina and Mom were the mentally sound out of the crew, and they didn't go. Now, we rallied and went. The situation prior to leaving, though, was that a life jacket would be along for the adventure. Now, I kept saying, I don't need a life jacket. I don't see any reason that I need a life jacket. But my mom and Katrina both insisted, yes, you do. And so life jackets went along for the ride as well. We unloaded and boarded the kayaks, said our goodbyes, and Mom and Katrina had the trailer and the truck, and they dropped us off, and they're waving, and we're all getting in our kayaks and taking off. So as we're waving by, we all kind of just dart around the corner. And I felt like I needed probably to follow suit behind. I think it may have been Bryce and myself, and Josh, Addison, and Pastor were ahead. And I kid you not, no more than just right around the corner, literally, death's door was knocking. You can laugh a little bit, but it wasn't funny at the time, I'll tell you that. We get around the corner, and there was a tree that had where the water was coming through swiftly. A big, huge tree was hanging out in the water. And so the water was really stirring into this corner. And so when you go to make this turn, it's going to want to pull you into that V where the tree was. Well, Pastor ends up flipping his kayak. And I'm seeing this go down, and Pastor's not coming up. So, I mean, of all the things that's happened in our family, I'm freaking out and trying to get to Pastor. And thankfully, we get him turned over. He's okay. And we're like trying to calm down, but in all of this, our kayaks end up going to the V of this tree. And so it's just almost unbearable trying to get the kayaks back out from where this tree has us cornered. So much that Addison's in there and Bryce is in there and I'm in there. And I remember trying to pull out one of these kayaks, and Bryce had bought me new sandals for my birthday, and I'm wearing them. And all I'm thinking, I don't know why. You think of the most stupid things in like crazy crisis moments. But those shoes were trying to come off, and I'm trying to save them. Well, in the process of trying to save my shoes, I go under, and I'm trying to get back out. It was just nonsense. Well, so after the first turn, we get everybody out. We get the kayaks back out, and we're all back in the kayaks. And there were quite a few times it happened again. So much kayaks were further down the river than where Pastor and myself were. So Bryce and Josh had to go and find the kayaks and then paddle upstream to bring us those kayaks. We had shoes lost, seats were broke. We swapped kayaks to maybe better help Pastor. It was craziness. I don't know if you've ever seen, well, you haven't seen Pastor in shorts because he just doesn't wear them. You'd be blinded anyway. But he still has a solid scar from the river. He was bummed up. I was bummed up. My sandals ended up going further down the river. We did end up getting them back, but I'm barefoot now in the river and trying to hold on to Pastor because the water is so swift, and we're having to cross ways to get another. Listen, it was craziness. It was craziness. High stress, high anxiety, and everybody knows I'm on medication for it. No medication could have fixed that day. But we get to a certain point, and this is probably, y'all, this is supposed to take like a 3-hour trek, and it took us 10 hours. I'm not fibbing you. That may be a small extension. What do you say, Sister Kathy? 9? I don't know. 6.5. Okay. So we get to a certain point, and it's a place that we can all get off at, and the road is near us, and we came to a decision trying to figure out what we should do. And we were trying to strongly encourage Pastor, why don't you just go and you'll sit on the bank. One of us will walk, or one of us walk the road, and we'll go get Sister Kathy and Katrina and come back and get you, or one of us will continue on with a kayak and we'll come back and get you, but we just are not sure that we want you to complete this whole river experience on a kayak. But I remember hearing in my dad's voice, and this is something that I was brought up in, and I talked to you about how my parents taught me to never quit. And there was only, honestly, just a couple of things they ever allowed me to quit. One was sports, and there was a reason. And the second one was piano lessons, because the teacher would try to teach me by note, and I would listen to her, and instead of reading it, I would just play it back. And so I should have stayed. I wish I would have, but that was the only two things I ever remember them let me quit. Anyway, I told you my parents weren't quitters. And I remember hearing in my dad's voice, he said, no, I want to finish this. And I'm thinking, oh God, please, Jesus, Lord, just come to our defense in Jesus' name, Lord. But at the same time, I wanted him to finish it. I wanted my dad to finish this and be able to say that he did it. And so we went with that. And so we all finally get back in our kayaks because we had sat on this bank for a hot minute. And so finally we all get back in our kayaks, get everybody on down the river, and we meet up with these people, and we're like, can you kind of give us an idea how much further it is to the camp? And are we past the hard portions of the river? Mm-hmm. She was like, oh, no, well, there's one final one. And what was it? Do y'all remember the name of it? I can't remember it right now. It has some, I feel like it had the word death or something in it. I don't know. Anyway, she goes, that's the hardest one. That's what everybody talks about. It's the hardest one. And we're thinking, oh God, we've already went past the place where we could have left others and came back and got them. So we had no other choice. So we go, okay, well, we're just going to do it. We get to that spot and it was like nothing. We just went right around it. No issue. I mean, of course, I'm cringing, cheeks tight, concerned that we're going to have another issue, and we made it with flying colors. And now we arrived 6.5 hours later, and Sister Kathy and Katrina on the beach there waiting for us. They'd set up lawn chairs, went and took a nap, read magazines, got concerned. We had no phone service, by the way, either. We could not even text them to let them know what was going on. We attempted, but we couldn't. So we all get out of the kayaks and discuss the experience, and Pastor's just bleeding from his knee down, and my feet feel like they've just been beat by multiple bars. But I say this, that I'm so proud, all joking aside, because there was some humorous moments, there were some hard moments, but I can say that my dad did not quit, and he's not a quitter. And he survived it. Now, he will never go kayaking again, and he'll tell you that. But we made it. We did it. Here's the thing. You know that the more we battle, the more like-minded, the more determined, the more seasoned we became on that river. The curve that they spoke about, there was no turnover. There was no swapping kayaks. No loss or no yelling. No profanity. I mean, we didn't. There was no profanity is what I'm trying to... Anyway, moving on. No paddling upstream. We made it. So here's the thing. The more we weather the battle, I've come to believe the more equipped we become. It was a tough achievement, and it came with its scars, but we defeated that dadgum river. We did, right? So here's the final portion of Psalm 78. The redemption story occurred, but it wasn't like the story I just described. Leadership, followers, they looked different. What was meant to be changed. Why? Because Jacob's people didn't battle it out. So, he had to adjust his plan. So if you want to, you can pull out your phones, whatever. I do not have this on screen, and I just want to run this by you here. Psalm 78, 65 through 72, this is what it says. Suddenly the Lord was up on his feet like someone roused from deep sleep, shouting like a drunken warrior. He hit his enemies hard, sent them running, yelping, not daring to look back. He disqualified Joseph as a leader, told Ephraim he didn't have what it takes, and chose the tribe of Judah instead. Mount Zion, which he loved so much, he built his sanctuary there, resplendent, solid, and lasting as the earth itself. Then he chose David, his servant, handpicked him from his work in the sheep pens. One day he was caring for the ewes and their lambs. The next day God had him shepherding Jacob, his people, Israel, his prized possession. His good heart made him a good shepherd. He guided the people wisely and well. I want to go back over a couple of things here in what I just read, and we're going to conclude this. He disqualified Joseph as a leader, told Ephraim that he didn't have what it takes. And then he chooses a whole a different tribe, the tribe of Judah instead. But he did choose David, his servant, handpicked him from his work in the sheep pens. One day he was caring for the ewes and their lambs, and the next day God had him shepherding Jacob, his people Israel, his prized possession. So I want to end with this. Will you turn back before the battle begins? As soon as it starts? Or when the first affliction happens, or when the battle becomes too long? Or would you like to be known as David was? I'll tell you, I don't want to be a part of Ephraim. In the end, where are you going to be? Like I mentioned earlier, church, friends, family, we are in a pivotal moment right now. In our nation, in families, within our church. And my question is, there's a push that's going on. There's a push that's going on in your personal life, and not only that, in our church, in our community. How are you going to react to the push? Like I said earlier tonight, it was incredible to see what God was doing, and I really, truly believe that many of us are on the brink of understanding the reality of the push, and that we're going to become like David, right? But there's many of us in this room, too, that are weighing out our options. We're whining about our experiences, whining about the things that we don't have, and we're on the road to Ephraim. And I'll tell you, I do not want to be known as the person that God ends up saying, all right, Aaron, I've given you plenty of opportunity. You've had it in your hands. I've told you the promises that I would give you. But you continue to whine. You continue to reject me. Forget the things that I provided you. So I'm going to pick somebody else. I'm going to pick somebody else to use. And here's the sad thing. When we make those kinds of decisions, understand this. There are people following you. So when I go to Ephraim, my wife could possibly go there. Bryce could possibly go there. Someone in this room, I don't know. But this is the important time to understand that it is vital that we complete this battle, that we keep pushing. Y'all, maybe it's because I have a 20-year-old in my life, but the things that they are dealing, actually the pastors talked about this last night at our district meeting, but our youth I'm talking about down to children, are experiencing things in their life that I never could fathom when I was a teenager. Social media is from the pit of hell. It really is, and it is running lives. Suicide rates are at their highest. I talked about this in eternity, in teens, because of this. Facebook just recently released statistics that kind of got themselves in trouble, not realizing what they had done, but it even proved this, that teenagers are at their highest rate in suicide because of social media. Facebook owns Instagram. I don't know if you know that, but it was through Instagram that these statistics came, but Facebook put it out there. If you are not paying mind to those things that surround you, whether you're a teenager yourself, whether you're a college student yourself, whether you're a parent, whomever you may be, we are in a battle, and we have got to choose to not pick one of these four things and be determined. I keep going back to, I don't know why that's doing that. I'll just read them out. I don't mean to sound repetitive, but I want to make sure that we understand. Bryce, could you take, yes, thank you. Before the battle begins, as soon as it starts, when the first affliction happens, when the battle becomes too long. I don't want to be a part of it. We're going to make mistakes. Daily, I ask the Lord to help me, to forgive me of something I've said, something I've done. I'm just like my mom. I'll ride the altar till Jesus comes if I have to. I don't want to miss it. And more than anything, I don't want to lead somebody else to miss it. So can we battle it out together? I know this is kind of heavy and everybody's just... So I don't know if you're taking it in, if you're offended. If you're offended, it could be an issue with you. You may be choosing one of those 4 things. But most importantly, I want to see the things that God has promised in my life. I want to see the things that God has promised our church. And the only way that happens is if we continue to battle it out. Battle it out. The more that we battle, the more seasoned we become. The more that we dive into our word, the more that we understand what God is telling us, right? Right, church? Pastor has challenged us so much to dig deep, to dig into his word, to fast. How many, Pastor challenged us 3 weeks ago to fast. How many by uplifted hand would say that you did that? I want to experience revival. And if it has to be me to start it, God, use me. God, use me. Whatever it takes. God, refine me. The refining only comes if we do our part and we're obedient. We can beg, we can plead up here, we can tell you that if you're not careful, you're going to lead your family to Ephraim. We can do all these things, but at the end of the day, it boils down to what you decide and what you choose. What you decide and what you choose. How you're spending your days. How long you're spending time on Netflix. We've been convicted in our home recently. We talked about it and trying to minimize things, be more mindful of what we're watching. It all matters. And I say this with the deepest of love, most importantly, because I say this every time I'm up here, but I just want you to know all of this, even down to the fasting, is personal convictions that God is just ripping me apart with. And we just got to start doing our part. We've got to start doing our part. Why can't revival start here? Why can't it start here at Covenant Church? Why can't it leak out of this building and begin to ignite? It's 8:30. I did not realize what time it was. If we will stand, I just want to pray over you. I really wanted to have time for altar and did not realize the time. Most importantly, I hope you know that this comes from a place of love, concern, and the reality of knowing that Jesus is coming, and I don't want to miss it. I want to be a part of the David type of tribe, not the Ephraim. God, we love you so much. Lord, I thank you so much for this congregation, Lord, that committed tonight to you, that I know it's been a long week. There have been hardships. People are wore out. People are ill, but they came anyway, Jesus. And God, I pray right now over each and every individual in this room, God, that you would begin to saturate our lives, God, with conviction. God, point out areas in our life, Lord, that we need a push. God, whether it is diving deeper into the word, God, learning more about you, Jesus, having a better prayer life, God, waking up earlier to give you that, Jesus, God, spending more time with you, God, understanding what true intimacy is like with you, Lord. Most importantly, God, we want to be a church, God, that leads, that are known as people who battle it out, that aren't puny, that don't whine, that don't fall to their feet and give up, but God, that we continue to push and push and push. Lord, I pray blessing over each and every individual in this room. God, I pray, Lord, if there's anyone in this room that doesn't know you, God, that they begin to know you tonight. It's a simple prayer. All you got to do is ask him into your heart and believe it, and it is done. It is done. We love you so much, God. You are worthy to be praised, God. We are excited to experience and see what lies ahead for Covenant Church. So God, continue to show us areas, Lord, that need a change, that need to shift in order for those things to take place, God. I pray that as people leave this house tonight, God, that you, Lord, saturate their cars, saturate their homes, Lord, their families, God. Provision take place, God. Blessings begin to occur. God, areas in their life where they know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you, God, are present. I love you so much, and I thank you once again for what you're doing and what you're stirring in our hearts. In your name we pray. And everybody said, amen.